included about 30 tribes across the coastal plain tidewater regions of Virginia. 7 of the 8 federally recognized Virginian tribes historically spoke Algonquian. Chickasawamy, Eastern Chickasawamy, Mattapony, Naspauldin, Nemahonomy, Rappahannock, and Upper Mattapony in D.C. and Maryland. The Nahatan and people also spoke Algonquin. In the southwestern and southeastern regions of Virginia, the indigenous language was the Iroquoian, which is the original language of the Notoid, Marriott, Tuscarora, and Cherokee. A third language group, Siouan, was used across the Piedmont region by the Manahoe and other tribal groups. The Manahoe people did not speak the same language as the Powhatan Confederacy, nor the Iroquoian groups, nor the English. Over time, most of the Manahoe merged with other Siouan-speaking tribes in Virginia, and later some migrated to New York and Canada under the protection of the Iroquois Confederacy, 6 nations. So in honor of the Manahoe Confederacy of Tribes, we must do everything we can to take care of this land.
Yes.
We're going to start with our first speaker now, Delegate Mark Keene. If
Well, thank you so much, Katie. And let me also thank Annika and everybody else on this side of the stage. They are really the reason why we're here. The young people who decided that this is the most important place and time that they should be today at this moment. So we're here in their presence, and I want to thank them. And so let's give them first a big round of applause. My name is Mark Keene. I have the honor of representing this area in the General Assembly of Virginia. I also have spent the last 10 years of my career working on issues that would move us towards a clean energy future so that we can protect the environment, conserve the natural resources, and combat the climate crisis that we know is happening for real. And so I look forward to coming back in the General Assembly in January. I have a number of bills that many of you have in this group have been working with me to push for more solar, to protect our environment, make sure there's environmental justice, to ensure that our wildlife has a way that they can survive in this urbanized area. And so there are lots and lots of policy issues that we'll be working on together, and I look forward to that. But that's not why I'm here today. I'm not here to talk about policy, because there is a role for government in policy. But the most important aspect of democracy is not what the lawmakers like me do. It's what citizens do. It always has been about the citizens. It always has been about people. And in particular, it has to do with a certain segment of the population. Let me say this. Let me think this through. About 30 years ago, exactly, and I look around, there are many, many of you here who were not around 30 years ago. But if you think back to 1989, for some of you in this audience, back then, if you wanted to listen to a cool song, a hit song, we didn't have Spotify, we didn't have Pandora or iTunes. You had to get these big boxes hooked up to the outlet, and you pull these antennas out, and you fiddle around these buttons, and you move things around until you get to these whizzing sound, and all of a sudden there's a song coming on. You keep running around until you find another station that has another song. It was called radios for some young folks out there. We had these things called radios, and AM and FM. And if you were listening about 30 years ago, in 1989, you would have heard a song that was really popular. It made it to, I don't know, top 10 of the Billboard charts. It was a song by a singer named Debbie Gibson. And the song was called Electric Youth. Anybody remember that song? Yeah. Okay, okay, Boomer, some of us are here. I remember that song very well because I myself was a youth at that time. Not quite a teenager, but I was a young adult. And the song really hit me because the song kept on talking about how the future only belongs to the future itself. But the future is electric youth, meaning that the youth who are growing up today are going to be our future. And it's really up to them to decide and to define the world that they want to live in. And the reason why Debbie Gibson wrote that song as a teenager herself was she felt as a young woman that her voice was never heard. In the mainstream, in the industry, and in school, and wherever she was at, no matter what she said, because she was a young woman, a teenager, people said, you have your place here, the rest of us as adults, we have our place at the table. And so the youth voice was being ignored and not heard. And so she wrote this top Billboard blasting song, and it became a big hit. And she rallied a lot of young people to talk about why the future does belong to them and why they need to step up. Now, had Debbie Gibson written the song today, instead of calling it Electric Youth, I think she would have called it Climate Youth. And the reason is because the issue of the day, the most important issue that you and I, whatever generation we may fall into, is the climate. And 30 years ago, sad to say, my generation and those before me, we failed because we actually put our priority on electric and not on the climate. We thought that electricity was boundless. It was underground. We could just keep digging it until it was gone. Who cares if it's gone? It was there for us to use. We thought that the pollution that we created into the air would just disappear. Who knew there was a thing called the zone and the greenhouse gas? We didn't think about those things. We just did things because it was available to us. Well, 30 years later, we know more. In fact, every scientist under the sun has told us that what we've done in the last previous generations as human beings, in addition to whatever natural occurrences happen, as human beings, we as mankind has created the mess that we live in today. And that is a proven fact by every single scientist under the sun, except for a few who are bought and paid for by those that benefit with the status quo. And so if the science, facts, evidence, and most importantly, if the youth who will have the future of this country, future of this world, if they are telling us that we have to act, then how in the world can you and I as adults not act today? That is a moral imperative of our generation. That is the reason why I'm here. That is the reason why I'm here to support the young people, because without the climate youth speaking up and reminding us what's at stake, we have roughly 10 years or so left. For folks like me, it's going to go by really quickly. But for our young generation, my daughter, my son, and Annika and Katie and all of their colleagues, 10 years is just a very small fragment of how long they're going to be around doing things. So is it up to us as adults to make the best of our next 10 years so that we leave the planet better than how we found it for our youth? I absolutely believe so. And that's why we're here today. So I want to thank Climate Youth and all of the groups that supported us and sponsored this event today, from 350 to Sunrise to all the different organizations, Mothers Out Front. Thank you for what you're doing, but let's keep going because the Earth is not going to wait for the future.
Thank you. So our next speaker is going to be Delegate Ibrahim Samira. Thank you very much for coming.
Hello, everybody. What a wonderful afternoon. Or morning, I should say. We're already jumping to afternoon. Thank you to all the youth of Fairfax. Of course, Katie and Annika for organizing it and putting this all together. And for all the organizations that are already putting in so much work day in, day out to try to uplift the struggle of our Earth. We like to think about the day-to-day issues. We like to fight for them. In particular, in my case, I fight a lot for healthcare cost reduction, for pharmaceutical cost reduction, for housing affordability. But at the end of the day, if we don't have a planet, there's really not much to talk about in those regards. So it's really important to think about the struggle of maintaining a planet that survives many centuries to come, the way it is right now, in the context also of these day-to-day issues that everyday people face. I think it's a distinct connection that sometimes we forget to talk about when we're trying to relate to others about how this does impact their life at the end of the day. People like to label activists, organizers, advocates for a healthier planet as hippies or people that are out of touch with the rest of society. And to them I say, think more, think deeper. Because at the end of the day, I can't talk about your health care as your representative if you can't talk about our planet and its livelihood. If we can't talk about reducing carbon emissions down to zero, if we can't reduce greenhouse gas emissions in general down to zero by 2030, we're going to have irreversible damages, as the UN has told us. We're already late on this topic, but it's time to innovate. It's time to find new ways. This is one of those ways of getting out and speaking about what this means for us. of course, coming from the voice of youth, it's much more powerful. As much as it doesn't sound like I'm a youth to the youth here,
It's all relative.
it's all relative. But as a 28-year-old, as the youngest delegate in Virginia's House of Delegates and Virginia's legislator, fighting for this is just as it is fighting for you. And just as you are fighting for the planet, and you're seen as the youth that is going to push forward this agenda for a healthier planet, I am seen in that light as well. And the only way to spread it is to bring along everybody with us, to convince everybody else that doesn't believe in their youthfulness. I believe everybody has youthfulness inside of them. That they can fight and they can pursue something of a change for everybody on all those little things that everybody cares about that are really big things for everyday people. So let's try to bring together as many movements, as many struggles as we can. The folks that want to fight for healthcare should be fighting for the planet. Folks that want to fight for housing should be fighting for the planet as well. And it goes without saying, anything else that's earthly that is being fought for should be also intertwining itself and fighting for the planet. And on that note, thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. All right, so our next speaker is going to be Board of Supervisors member Dahlia Palchik.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Anika, and everyone who helped organize. I know your families are here too, so thank you to the families and the parents who've raised such amazing kids. While talking about youth, next year I'll be the youngest member on the Board of Supervisors here in Fairfax County, so 36 years old. But exactly 30 years ago, last week, my family immigrated from Argentina here to Fairfax County. And so I'm just even more thrilled to see that we've got such a diverse group of youth and families here today, because that's our county. I grew up in a community where at school I was learning about saving our planet and the environment. And like many of you, I would go home and got my parents to start recycling and doing compost and understanding the impact of what we were doing on the planet. So it is about you, and this is how we're going to get there. Now, this is the very first, I believe, Fairfax climate strike. So woohoo! Go our youth, Fairfax County. It will not be the last. So thrilled to see so many of you here today, and we got a beautiful day for it, so good job on the weather. And what's really important to me is someone asked me earlier today, and we've had this conversation, should this be a partisan issue? Although right now it feels like sometimes we live on two different planets. The truth is we don't, right? This is one planet, this is one community. And if we do something about it, we're going to be able to live on this planet for much longer. If we don't, she'll be here, we may not. And I know so many of you, especially the youth, are so worried, so fearful, because this is your life, your kids, your grandkids who are going to be so impacted by what we do or what we don't do here today. So I've never done this before, but I'm going to try to read something from my phone, so bear with me. You know, I wanted to share some words, but this is about you, and I know you're going to have some kids, some youth speaking later. But I had some students that I reached out to and wanted to share some of their words here today, because you're the ones who we have to listen to, and you're the ones whose voices are the ones that really, really matter to us. And like one person said, I think we have several kid organizers across the planet. You might know Greta. But there's one girl named Alexandria Villaseñor in New York City. And she says, I'm too young to vote. When I strike, I feel like I'm taking back some agency in my future. How many of you here today are too young to vote? Who's too young to vote? Woo! Well, thank you especially for being here today, because soon you will be voting, you will be making these decisions. In the meantime, I just wanted to share words from one student. I think she was hoping to be here, but maybe homesick today. But Nora is a freshman in high school. Are her classmates here today? Her friends? Woo! Awesome. So Nora said to me, she said, I care about the climate because I want to be able to live a life without worrying the world ending, or that some of my favorite things won't be here in the future. With current climate estimations, things will start getting really bad around 2050. I'll be 45. I'll be a little older, but she'll be 45. I probably won't be able to retire. I won't be able to sit outside on the deck like my grandparents did because the air might not be breathable. And I'm one of the lucky ones. There is so much fear, worry, uncertainty in our youth. And while I'm on the newer generation of political leaders, we have to understand what hasn't been done and we have to take action. And I just want to thank you so much because you're making us take action. You are here. I'm excited to be here for every single climate strike. It'll be double this number next year. And we are here. Without you, we're not going to do this. So keep us fighting. Keep us to our word. We know we flipped Richmond. We know we flipped so much of our county here. But it's not about politics and it's not about partisan issues. This is our issue. This is your future. So please continue to make us fight. Thank you, Fairfax. Thank you, everyone who supported this climate strike. And let's keep fighting together. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're going to start with some of our student speakers now. So our first student speaker is going to be one of the organizers of this strike, Anika Gupta.
Hi, my name is Anika Gupta. I'm 15 years old and I'm one of the co-organizers of this strike. And to start off, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here. I see some great signs. This is a significant step in stopping climate change and improving our environment. And I really think that the support of a FCPS Green New Deal throughout its 196 schools and offices will make a significant change for the future. Climate change is something that will affect everyone. It means extreme weather conditions and changing climates, which is why the last 5 years have been the hottest years on record, increased sea levels, mass extinction of species on land and in water, air and water pollution. It costs millions of dollars every year in rebuilding costs, lost lands, causes diseases, and in some cases, death, and displaces millions of people every year. By 2090, climate change impacts are projected to cost about $224 billion more per year than it does right now. Additionally, Virginia has the second most susceptible area to flooding in the United States at Hampton Roads. No matter where you live, all 7 billion people on the planet are impacted by climate change. When I grow up, I want my kids to be able to be outside in the clean, fresh air and experience nature the way I can. And I want them to live in a world unpolluted with thriving ecosystems, without the worries that they or their kids might not have a livable future. Most of all, I want renewable and clean options to be integrated into their everyday life. And the adoption of the FCPS Green New Deal for all schools in the county is a step in creating that better future, in 10 years and in hundreds of years. While in the past, FCPS has executed initiatives such as the Get to Green program, we have so much more to do. This plan includes renewable energy by using solar power in schools and transporting students with electric buses, charging stations on school property, and local and sustainable food options, updating the HVAC systems to make them more efficient, and energy-efficient windows. Another part of the plan is introducing curriculum about climate change and teaching about climate change and how our actions impact the environment from a young age. This plan benefits us all by making our environment cleaner and decreases transportation and energy costs while creating jobs. We have to create change now so we all have a better future, and future generations do too. We have to be the change. And I wanted to end with one of my favorite chants. What do we want? When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Climate justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Climate justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
Thank you, Anika. All right, so our next student speaker is going to be Wendy Gao, who works with Alexandria Villaseñor's group, Earth Uprising.
Hi everyone. Like Katie said, my name is Wendy Gao. I'm sure some of you guys probably know me. I see a lot of familiar faces, and it's good to see so many of you guys here. I'm 18 years old and I'm a senior at Oakton High School, and I've been doing this for quite a while. And for as long as I've been a climate activist, one thing about climate change that I've never understood, or society's reluctance to change, is the fact that humans need the earth to survive. Everything that we use in our very livelihoods depend on her survival. Our food, our air, our water. The earth doesn't need humans. She never asked for us to be her stewards. She never asked for us to recycle for her, or green our buildings for her, or switch to renewable energy for her. The term environmental stewardship came into existence because of human activity and human development first. So the 2030 deadline isn't a deadline for the earth, it's a deadline for humans. And like Dahlia said, after the clock strikes humanity, or strikes midnight for humanity, the earth will still be here. Over the next billions of years, human civilization will vanish, but the earth's soil will replete itself, carbon levels will probably stabilize, and she might even be able to support new forms of life. There have been 5 mass extinctions before humans, so this isn't really the Earth's first rodeo. This is about to be her 6th mass extinction. She is going to live on after us, and I've never understood why humans insist to dig our own grave. However, if we were any other species, if we were, say, the dinosaurs, we would continue business as usual. We would keep drilling and mining and fracking like there's no tomorrow. But I've said this before, and I'll say it again for the rest of my days. There's something insanely profound about being Homo sapien, and that's the fact that humans are introspective by nature, and we are capable of change. But we don't have a lot of time to do it. So governments have to act bigger, bolder, and braver. Hesitation is going to be our destruction. We don't have time to plan out every single thing. We have to act with urgency. There's a misconception that change is top down, and that it has to start with the government. And sure, they might have the legislative power to actually create bills and laws. However, change is bottom up, and democracy is bottom up. It comes from the people. And that's why we're taking a stand today. We're reminding politicians that they're accountable to us, and we hold them accountable. We vote them into office. We're taking a stand today, just like kids like me and younger than me have taken stands every Friday for so many weeks. And just like we did last Friday on November 29th, and on September 20th, and on March 15th, and how we'll continue to take a stand until governments take action. We're demanding a just transition away from fossil fuels, and we're demanding environmental justice and respect for Indigenous people and lands. We're demanding compensation for frontline communities. But most of all, we're demanding a livable future and a livable planet. I know that at times our work is hard and it feels even hopeless, because progress is slow and real change comes even slower. But nothing worth being recorded in history has ever come easy. And I can testify that this isn't easy. Back in September, when I was with the DC Climate Strike Coalition organizing for the strike, I hit one of the lowest points in my activism. It was so hard to balance school and college applications and hours upon hours of organizing. But an Indigenous activist told me that when we're fighting for our futures, we have to envision what a victory is going to look like. And while our work right now is hard, in the long game, we will win, because we have to win. There isn't another option. But to play the long game, we have to play the end game now. We're bordering on only 10 years left to save our planet. And we only have a number of moves left, and if we play it right, and if we play the end game right, we can make it to the long game. But what that means is we have to make every move right, and that means it's going to take every move and every person to get there. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you all. I wish that I could stay for the rest of this strike, but unfortunately, I have a calculus test that I have to get to now. But yeah, thank you to the organizers again for having me, and everyone for listening.
All right, so our next speaker is going to be Jamal.
All right, Fairfax County, how are we doing today? So I want to start off by saying how grateful I am to stand in the same spots that all of these other really inspiring and passionate speakers have spoken. And I especially want to give a big shout out to the organizers Katie and Annika especially for making today a reality. Please join me in giving it up for them. Alright, so you're probably wondering why I'm here speaking today. My journey started when, in my childhood. As a little kid, I wasn't really the type of person who wanted to go to a baseball game or play my Xbox. I was the type of person who wanted to go to the zoo every single day, and I was really lucky in that I got to go every weekend. I always appreciated the the beauty and majesty inherent in nature, and that led me to keeping like my first betta fish, Nemo, I'll always love you, my first bearded dragon, and even today I still keep poison dart fox and my leopard gecko Eugene. But for me, my watershed moment came when I was 11 years old. I was reading a book in our Fairfax County Public Libraries, and I realized that one of the species of moose that I kept had more individuals left in captivity than were left in the wild. Their natural range had been reduced to under 1 square kilometer, which is smaller than the park that we're standing in today. This piqued my interest and concern for the environment and led me to climate activism, which is the very thing that unites us here today. Our country was founded on the idea that we can decide our own destiny, and we're not going to give that idea up. We're the most influential youth group in the history of this country, and we will not stop fighting until we achieve the reality that we need to survive. We are the next generation. We are the future. We hold elected officials accountable for their flawed policies, and we reject big corporations for their crimes against the environment. We salute the men and women working to save our environment. Greenpeace, Fridays for Future, Extinction Rebellion, Zero Hour, Future Coalition, Sunrise Movement, Earth Uprising, Greta Thunberg, and everyone here standing today. We believe that there is hope, and we will save this Earth. Thank you.
Hey, ho, ho, Dominion power has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, Dominion power has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho, Dominion power has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho.
Sorry, Katie has to give an interview. So right now we're gonna do the letter writing. So we're gonna